I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?
We get to ecology. Can you just tell me what is the divine? Like, what is divinity? Like, through African eyes.
Well, most African languages that I've studied, their word for what we call God or the divine is the totality of everything. Sometimes they say the totality of creation. But in every people, person, place, or thing, God, the word for God, is either the prefix or the suffix. So that means in everything an African deal with, the divine is in it. And it's also in everything in nature and everything in the cosmology. So it's the totality of everything. And we are part of that totality. You know, we're like a miniature universe, you know. And so everything that's contained in the universe, including all of its possibilities, is also contained in us. So when we talk about the divine, before you go seeking it in a church or a mosque or a temple or a shrine, first seek it in the most immediate shrine, which is your own body and your own mind. Once you learn to center and find the divine in you, you'll recognize it in anything else.
So, okay, that sounds like a lot. I mean, it sounds very, it sounds kind of hard. I'm just going to put it out there. I guess, like, how do you find the divine in you? Do you need like someone to help you, or is there? I mean, like, just how do you do that?
Well, the first thing is a word that we don't use a lot. It is obedience. Obedience to the teachings of your ancestors. Obedience to the teachings of your parents. Obedience to the teachings of your most ancient civilization, which means you've got to know your own history. You must know the history of the African American people. You must know the history of the African Caribbean people, the African South American people, the African American people. That history is the experiences of your ancestry, the good and the bad. And once you learn your history, you can begin to explore your own personal genealogy. Somebody said, well, my father drank, but he didn't tell you to drink, you know. He was always telling you the most important opposite, how not to do that. So the question even that we find in ancient Kemetic literature, and we saw was taken into Hebrew and Christian and Muslim literature, honor thy mother and thy father. So if you don't respect ancestors and the experiences they've had, which we call history, and study those experiences so you can learn from their mistakes and their victories, you'll have a difficult time constructing the divine in you. Every human being, everything that exists is an expression of an aspect of the total divinity, which is the totality of everything. That's what the white man is trying to call the theory of one. He's trying to find God mathematically. So he calls it the theory of one, but he's not been able to get there. He can't prove it because you can't prove it. You have to be it. See? Yeah. And so that's why I like the term by Sister Zora Neale Hurston. She said to go there, to be there, to be it, to be there, you've got to go there. And to go there, you got to know there. So you can't be there unless you go there, but you can't go there unless you know there. So we're right back to studying the experiences of the ancestors, which we call our history. Your history is your ancestors instructing and informing you of how to build your now. And when you think of it, everything is one. Without yesterday, you know nothing. You can't speak. You don't even know what vision is. All the knowledge you have that you're using in today's world, in the present, comes from yesterday. And the minute you've formulated something in the present, you know, to become your future, you're designing in the presence, and everything you make in the presence of the thing you perceive as future. But as soon as you design them, they become the past again, to teach the next generation how to live in the presence by aspiring for the future. But it's all the same thing. It's all one. Muslims even have a prayer. It's called Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, wa lam yulad, wa lam yulid, wa lam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. It says, know that Allah is one, He begets and knows He begotten. And it's a beautiful Muslim prayer. But if you go back to Kemet and study the prayer of Akhenaten, he has the same prayer. O soul God, you who was given birth to by none and has given birth to none, it is you alone, and I, Akhenaten, am your servant. So that concept of the oneness of God goes back to the very beginning of our understanding. And when we study our history, like the pyramid texts and the book of the coming forth by day, it will tell you very plainly that when the cosmos and the nature, when the universe manifests as a human, it was a black woman. They call it the primordial woman, the primordial water, or the black waters of Nun. All right. And because only this feminine phenomena could then give birth to everything else. So studying history, so you can be informed by your ancestry, and then studying you. Because when your mom and dad gave birth to you, they gave birth to themselves. They had nothing else to give birth to. So you didn't drop out of the sky or brought in by a stork or nothing. When they gave birth to you, when that sperm and that egg met and decided to unite, that was your mother and daddy uniting as you. And as they were uniting as you, you were also the unity that was them. And when they gave birth to you, they gave birth to the only thing they could give birth to is themselves. Now, if you take that concept backwards, you end up with the divine itself being the father, mother of all of us and our primary ancestry. So we are an extension of the divine having a human experience called us. That's right up out of Kemet 101.
Wow. I don't think I can get that from church. I mean, I don't know. That's
They
wow.
won't teach it like that in church. I'm sorry.
No.
You know.
No. And so one thing you said, you said that once you can recognize the divine in yourself, then it makes it easier for you to recognize the divine in others.
Right. You then know what you're seeing. Right now, we see attraction. We see attachment. We see charisma. We see, the makeup. Brothers with their hair either braided right or brother with the hair locked right or cut bald like mine, and they got on the right clothes with the ankh on it, and this aesthetic presentation, which is almost always never the real deal. It is a presentation. And that's why they call it makeup. You make yourself up and present this false self in order to attract another self. But that should not be the thing that brings you together. Once the aesthetic attraction is presented, you should look for the essence behind the aesthetic attraction. That essence is the divine in that person. And since you know what the divine feels like, looks like, sound like in yourself, it looks exactly the same in them if it's alive and well. And if it's not there, you'll know it. So
what is the purpose of people coming together, like African people come together? Like what's the purpose?
To constantly recreate yourself and perfect divinity itself. Remember, you're a part of divinity. Divinity is constantly perfecting itself. You're one of those tools in that process of perfection.
So when you get together with someone, it seems like you may need some help. Like how do you make that work?
That's where culture comes in. Culture, the word itself means to cultivate. What is it that you're cultivating? You're cultivating the best of your past. You can't take everything forward. Some of it didn't work well. Some of it won't work well now. But you cultivate the best of the values, the best of the interests, the best of the principles, the best of the ethics, and the best of the moral. And you design that as the socialization process that teaches you how to be a human being. I think that's simple and clear, right?
Yeah.